Hello students, today we will be starting with control and coordination. Before we begin this chapter, let's go back to what we studied in 9th. Hello students, today we are going to start control and coordination. Before we understand this chapter, let's go back to what we studied in 9th standard. If you remember, in 9th we had studied a chapter called tissues. In that, we had studied about nervous tissue. In nervous tissue, we had also studied that each nervous tissue or the nervous tissue consists of many nerve cells, which are also called as neurons. Now, how does the neuron look? The neuron is usually having a body structure something like this. That means just like that of a spider, it looks, and there is a long body which is divided into small parts, and at the end there are certain thread-like structures. And at the same time, these ends, there are certain rounded structures, or you can say some zigzag form of structures. Now, what are they called? These are called as the dendrite. These are the axon. This is the nucleus, and this whole thing is the cell body. These thread-like structures are called the nerve endings. Now, what actually happens when any connection in our body takes place from brain to any part of the body? It passes through these nerves or the neurons. Whatever takes place, these dendrites, they set off a series of chemical reactions which passes through the axon, first the cell body, then the axon, in the form of a electrical impulse, moves on to the nerve endings, and where it ends, there again a chemical impulse takes place. Actually, the nerves are arranged one after the other. So, where the nerves are there, it is the electrical impulse, and the gap between the two neurons, in the gap area, is the chemical impulse. That gap is called as the synapse. So, in the synapse, a chemical reaction or a chemical impulse sets in, which results in the next electrical impulse. Now, when we use the word control and coordination, that is how our body is controlled and coordinated. Here we are concerned about humans. In humans, the whole body is controlled by the nerves which send the message to the brain, and the brain sends back the message. A small example here, like if there is a piece of ice on your palm, or you pour your finger in some hot water, you feel the burn or you feel the cold ice. That is because the nerves send the message to the brain that this is what is happening in the muscles or in the tissues around, and then the brain sends back the answer. So in this chapter, we will see how the body gets controlled by the brain. But other than this, there are certain chemicals, what we call as hormones, which help in the control and coordination of the body. At the same time, everything cannot be under the control of the brain. The reason, there is one brain, and in our body throughout the day so many things take place. So, some of the work is given to the spinal cord. This spinal cord is also able to take the action of what is going to happen. Then that is termed as reflex action. Here, one more example. Suppose you see that something is coming towards you, a bird or some insect. What do? You move away from the aim, or you move away from that area, because you know if you are standing there, then definitely you will be hurt by it. Or you see when players are playing, a ball is about to come and hit you on the head, your first reaction will be moving away. This is called as reflex action, and this takes place in case of humans, and that is under the control of spinal cord. Now we will see first the structure of brain. When we look at the brain, we see it is mainly divided into three parts. The brain is divided into three parts. First one is the forebrain. Second one is the midbrain, and third one is the hindbrain. As I have written here, and the name suggests, fore means front, first, mid means middle, and hind means back or last or behind. The whole human brain is divided into three parts. We also call it as, by the other name, as cerebrum, midbrain as midbrain, and hindbrain as cerebellum. Now we'll see what is the function of these three brains, or the three parts of the brain. The forebrain is actually responsible for all the thinking we do. As I am speaking to you, something is coming in your mind. You are analyzing it. Your thoughts are visualizing that the brain is divided into three parts. This visualization, this thinking, this thought, or the acceptance of learning ability is under the control of the forebrain. So basically, the forebrain is responsible for all the thinking. Then comes the midbrain. The midbrain is actually the connection between the fore and the hindbrain. The midbrain controls all the involuntary actions in our body. For example, the beating of the heart. If you think, or I think, let the beating or let the cardiac muscles take rest for a minute, that is not possible. Or if we, after having the food, we think that let the digestion stop and it will start 2 hours later, that is not possible. So these are not under our control. So the actions which are not under our control, they are called as involuntary action, and they are very much controlled by the midbrain. Then lastly comes the hindbrain. In hindbrain, all the voluntary actions take place or is under their control. That means when we are talking, when we are walking, we are balancing the body, all that we do as per our wish. We want to write, we want to read, where the brain has to think and the body has to coordinate. All that is under the control of the hindbrain. But one most important thing in hindbrain is the last part of the hindbrain is ending in a part called medulla oblongata. This medulla oblongata finally ends in the spinal cord. So the spinal cord that you see as the backbone behind your body, that is directly connected to the brain, the hindbrain. That is why many times you have heard people saying that do not hit anyone on the back of the neck, because if this is injured, the connection between the body and the brain cuts off and the person may become paralyzed. So spinal cord is that part which comes down in the form of vertebral column or backbone in a layman's language. So some activities are under the brain's control and some activities are under the control of the spinal cord. So those which are under the control of spinal cord are said to be the reflex action, and the reaction that we show, that is known as reflex arc. We saw that brain and spinal cord are present in human beings or animals. But in case of plants, the control and coordination takes place by certain chemicals formed by the body of the plant. And those chemicals are known by the name hormones. These hormones are secreted at various parts of the plant body, which help it in various activities or various metabolism of the plant. That means the growth of the plant, the increase in the girth, the flowering, the formation of fruit, the ripening of fruit, even when the leaves fall, that is, they reach the senescence or they become old. Now we'll see all the names and the functions of the hormones which are produced in plants. The first one is the auxins. This helps in the formation or helps in the growth of the plant. The plant grows in size. Then comes the gibberellins. The gibberellins are those group of hormones which help to increase the girth. Girth means the breadth of the plant. But very strange, they are active only when auxins are active. That means when the plant is increasing in height, at the same time it increases in girth. Then next comes the cytokinins. The cytokinins are those hormones which help in the cell division. That means when the cell divides, automatically the plant will grow. But cytokinins help the division of cells for two reasons. That is, for growth as well as for reproduction, mitosis and meiosis. Then comes the next one, abscisic acid, which is also called as ABA. Now normally what happens, a plant grows in size, keeps on growing. That means if there is nothing to inhibit it, nothing to tell it to stop its growth, the plant will keep on growing. So the hormone abscisic acid comes into the form. This hormone abscisic acid is said to be a growth inhibitor. Inhibitor means which stops the growth, does not allow the growth of the plant. Next, last one is ethylene. This is secreted or released by the plant when they have to make the fruits from raw to ripe. When the bananas or the mangoes, they come into the tree, we see that they are green in color, but slowly they turn into yellowish color. That is because of the presence of. Now, the plants other than the hormones we saw, they also show some movement towards light, towards soil, towards water and towards chemical. We'll just see one by one what they are. When I say tropic movement or tropism, that means when the plant moves towards the light. Usually we see a stem bends in the direction of the light. That is phototropism. And what will happen to a root? A root moves to the direction of the soil, that is towards the gravity. then it is called as geotropism. Next comes, we have seen that certain pollen grains, when they stick to the stigma of a flower, they start forming the pollen grains. Why? Because there is a sticky substance in the stigma, and ultimately the pollen grains move down into the ovary or the ovule for fertilization. When such an attachment or such and movement is there, we call it as chemotropism. Now let us understand the meaning. Photo means light, movement towards light. Geotropism, geo means soil, movement towards soil. Chemotropism, chemo means chemical, movement towards the these different chemicals secreted by the plant. Now these are one sort of movement. The other movement is the nastic movement. Nastic movement is when the movement is not in the direction of the stimulus. What is the stimulus? If I touch something, movement is shown somewhere else. That is called as nastic movement. The best example here is about the Mimosa pudica plant, or what is called as touch me not. In this plant, when we touch the leaves close down. The reason behind it is the moment we touch them, they lose water. As they lose water, they close down, and after some time again they regain water from the roots through the xylem, and the leaves open. So that movement is nastic movement. So tropic movement and nastic. Now we will see the hormones present in animals, that is in human beings. In this chapter we are more concerned about the hormones in human beings. In human beings, we start from our head region or the brain region. The hormones are those chemicals secreted in the body in one area, but they show their effect in another area. First, we will see the one present in the brain. That is, in the head region, pituitary glands are present and pineal glands are present. This pituitary gland is a small gland present in the head region or the brain region. It is also called as the master gland because it controls all the activities of our body. Anything, whether it is growth, whether it is metabolism, whether it is how we are going to move, everything is under the control of the pituitary gland. Hence, it is called as the master gland. Mainly, pituitary gland, as it helps in the growth. Sometimes, if the growth is not proper, that means the pituitary gland does not produce enough amount of hormones. In that case, a person becomes a dwarf. You might have seen some people are very tall, just like Khali. He is so tall. And some people, they are very short. We call them as dwarf. So the two diseases that take place because of the pituitary gland, extra production makes a person giant, and we call it as gigantism. Less production, it is a person making the person a dwarf, which we call as dwarfism. Next, we move on to the neck region where thyroid and parathyroid glands are there. The thyroid glands help in the metabolic activity of the person. That means all the activities of digestion, respiration, reproduction, everything is under its control. If this does not function properly, a person will either become very fat or very thin. When does a person become fat? When it is produced in less amount. When does a person become thin? When it is produced in more amount. But this can be rectified with medicines. Then what is the function of parathyroid gland which is present next to the thyroid gland? They are actually helping in the absorption of calcium and phosphorus minerals in the body. Then we come to the thymus gland. Thymus gland are present in the chest region. Then we move on to pancreas, which is present in the stomach region, and they are responsible for the production of insulin in the body, which actually helps to maintain the blood sugar level in the body. Then next comes adrenal glands. These are present near the kidneys, just a little above the kidneys. They are also called as the emergency hormones. Most of the time they are inactive, but when an emergency comes, suppose all of a sudden I inform that there is an earthquake or there is a fire or anything, or you have to run, then you run immediately without thinking anything and your heart starts to palpitate. It is because this adrenal hormone helps in reducing the stress level in your body, which actually helps to palpitate. Your heart starts palpitation, and also sometimes your blood pressure increases. So these are the main hormones. Other than this, we also have the male sex hormones, which are responsible for all the male secondary sexual characters found in the testes and the female found in the ovary. All the secondary sexual characters of female are because of the ovary or ovaries.